he seems committed to doing a more thorough investigation as well. So no matter what happens, I think there's going to be a more significant criminal investigation in the new administration. But I also want to call attention to the fact that Congress has been making a lot of noise. The FBI director was testifying earlier this week to Congress. But let's highlight the fact that Congress can take steps that it's refusing to take to hold Mrs. Clinton accountable on this email scandal. And I think this is something important to remember. You know, Mrs. Clinton testified to Congress that she turned over all of her government emails. We know that to be false. And Congress, what did it do? It referred that question of whether she committed perjury to the Department of Justice for a criminal investigation. Well, who are they fooling? They know what's going to happen at the Obama Justice Department. They already know where the FBI director comes down on that. Why isn't there a contempt citation pending against Mrs. Clinton now? Why do they have to wait for the Justice Department to do something? If they think that she was in contempt of Congress, the way they treated in terms of her testimony being incorrect or false, and the fact that emails were destroyed after Congress subpoenaed them, why is it that Congress isn't holding Mrs. Clinton in contempt? The answer is somewhat obvious. They have an election, and they don't want accountability in a true sense of the word to get in the way of their quest for retaining Congress. And I'm talking about the Republican leadership. And the other uncomfortable point I'm going to bring up, at least from the point of view, I think, of many Republican leaders, is that they can also impeach Mrs. Clinton. And they don't have to wait for her to be president to impeach her. Congress retains the ability to impeach a federal officer for conduct, whether that officer whether that officer is still in office or not. So they can impeach Mrs. Clinton for misconduct as Secretary of State right now. And you tell that to a Republican member of Congress, and the general response you get is stunned silence, but it's true. And the sanction would be, this is the way it works in the House, is you impeach the member, the official in the House, and that's kind of like an indictment, and that's moved to the Senate for a trial. And the result of the Senate trial, if there's a conviction, one of the sanctions could be ineligibility for future public office. Boy, wouldn't that be an interesting process, at least to begin or talk about? But you don't want to hear any Republicans talking about that. But the fact is, Mrs. Clinton can be impeached for her conduct as Secretary of State. So the next time you hear Congress complaining about the FBI and the Department of Justice, you know, and the cover-up and the wired investigation that resulted in no criminal charges on the Clinton email matter, you know, that's all fine and good. But remember that Congress has independent tools available to it under the Constitution to prosecute the Clinton scandal, and there are tools they're refusing to use. So I think there needs to be some accountability on that. But there's a lot of talk